Aloha, and welcome to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. The podcast where we are reviewing a monumental game in the 2024 preview game. Fucking shit. It's a preview episode of a monumental matchup in the 2024 season. We are about to hit the mid-ish, because these stupid odd number seasons. We're at about the midpoint of the season, and the Packers are playing for first place in the NFC North before heading into their bye week. It's going to be a tough one. The team practiced and was missing half of their key players due to injury today, but despite the fact that the team is going down, I'm on limited sleep from finishing my son's costume, and Joe is pushing through health issues, so we are at the table for you. Joe, hang in there with me tonight. We've got a big game to preview.
Well, I'm going to put this on the record. I've already said if something happens to me, Mike Quano takes over. So whatever happens after that is not my fault.
So if it goes to shit, remember it was his decision. But anyway, we've got the Lions coming up this week. Like I said, it was a checkered practice report, to say the least. What did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 DNPs today, including but not limited to Jair, Jacobs, Jenkins, Love, Myers, Rasheed Walker, and Evan Williams. So at least they got. Go for it.
I was going to say, I think a lot of them they said wasn't really long-term worry.
Yeah, it's somewhere between precautionary and just, I hate to say it, but kind of honestly, they are limping into the bye week at this point. LaFleur kind of let on that all of these DNPs are on the side of they all have a chance. We'll see how they progress through the week. Obviously the big one being Jordan, but I believe he said Jair was in a similar boat. Jenkins has missed Wednesday every week. I think Myers did last week. Jacobs, I'm sure, will go at some point. And Rasheed has popped up on the injury report here and there. But, yeah, and the Lions practice report was funny as shit, too, because they had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 DNPs, but of those 10, half of them were not injury-related rest for Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, DJ Reader, and Kevin Zeitler. So understandable, older linemen. And then the one that I'm kind of surprised by was Levi Onwuzurike, because he's in his third or fourth season. Another guy I wanted Green Bay to pick. But in the midst of that, you had Taylor Decker missing practice with a chest injury, so that would be their starting left tackle. Jared Goff rolled his ankle last week, but they said he should be good to go. Josh Paschal is sick, and then a couple special teamer reserves are also dealing with some injuries. So this is, again, going to be one of those, we'll see what happens the rest of the week in practice. Jordan did speak with the reporters today and said he is pretty optimistic about his chances to play. LaFleur was obviously more guarded in his take on it, saying that they will go the week and examine him. There is a chance he could play if he doesn't practice, but LaFleur said that, but we'll have to see. And the way I take that is it's not a preparation standpoint. It's if he can't practice, that means the training staff is so concerned about an aggravation that if he can't practice, then LaFleur is kind of saying, I don't understand how he would be cleared for the game, but we'll see. They've got, what is that? I'm not even going to do the math. They've got 4 days to figure it out.
Something like that.
So, yeah, basically 3.5, 4 days by the time you're listening to this one. So we'll see where the team stands, but I don't know. How do you feel about this one? Especially on the Love one. I'm so torn because on one hand, you don't want to drop division games, especially home division games, but at the same time, this is such a pivot point in the season where the bye is next week, and they came out. All the reports are that the MRI came back way cleaner than they expected. It's not nearly as extensive an injury as some may have expected. Rappaport had the report that like, oh, it's going to be a multi-week thing for sure, and then like half an hour later, Tom Pelissero, and then Rappaport obviously confirmed with his sources too. But Pelissero was like, yeah, no, he might play this week, and so we'll see. Groins are like hamstrings, kind of worse in some extent because they're as temperamental as hamstring injuries, but there's more ways that you can step to aggravate a groin injury, and especially as a quarterback, and it being his left side, so that's his drive, his plant foot, and he's got to torque off that front leg to get the that does explain some of the issues he was having throwing a nice spiral and driving the ball downfield. So it's not even just can he protect himself, but can he throw effectively? And I do think that's where LaFleur was getting at, that if he can't practice, I do have a hard time seeing Love playing this week.
I don't know. I mean, I go back to in the Jacksonville game. I understand he had to because they only have the one quarter. I don't know how they do that emergency quarterback thing. So, yeah, I don't know. But beings that Malik was the only one healthy, you want to leave Jordan there in case something, you have to go into a very guarded game plan and just have him handing the ball off from shotgun or whatever. But still, for him to still have his pads on and his helmet at the ready, it makes you think that he was able, if need be, to go back in. So that gives me a little bit of hope that, all right, let's rest him Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll let him do a limited practice on Friday. Then we'll really test it out on Sunday before the game and go from there. And I know, and I have that feeling with a lot of the injuries on here. I know you mentioned all of them, like Jair and Myers and Rashid and Evan Williams and guys like that. I think it's going to be the same thing with them because everything that we've heard from all of them, and not like team sources, from guys who don't have the team, don't have a bias for it. So I to me, Matt LaFleur is playing old school football where you keep injuries and everything so close to your chest that you don't let anything out, or at least the bare minimum let out. And I have a feeling he gets frustrated with some of these guys when they say, "Oh yeah, I'm playing," or I'm pushing to play for this week or whatever. So that's got to frustrate him some. But they said Evan Williams wasn't bad. They just kept him out for precautions. They said the MRI came back on Jair clean, so it's just a day-to-day type thing for him. Jacobs, even though you could tell during the game when he got hurt, he still played through it, so that tells me he's pretty good on that. And what's the last one? And then you've got your normal guys that have been on there for a while. Like, you could tell Josh Myers got banged up, but he still played through it. I think Rashid's actually been on the practice or the injury report for a while, and then you said like Elton has too. Although that's a really weird injury for Elton to be put on the injury report for, a glute injury. But
Pretty sure that's what he was listed as last week too. So yeah.
But I was trying to look back because one of these days we're gonna have to sit down and total these up. Maybe we'll do that for the bye week for our pre-season 53. Our predictions for record. And I have this as a win for him. You had it for a win for him. I know this is going to sound weird, but they're not going to have Jamison Williams. Goff is limping around himself. Their practice report is not the greatest either. So,
You got to strike
It's
while the iron's hot. Yeah, yeah. And
right. It's going to be a tough game, but I still think that the Packers, being it's at home, they have all the they have all the possibility of winning the game. I guess I'm trying to say.
yeah, the big one, obviously, and on the good news side, Lafleur did say that Quay cleared concussion protocol, so and they expect him to
There's
start
another
on Sunday.
guy on the practice squad.
Oh yeah, and they added Jamin Davis, former first round pick, born in Honolulu. But yeah, so just trying to seeing if he can have another reclamation project. Davis is a guy who tested like an elite athlete, but hasn't put it together on the field. He was with the Commanders the first 3 seasons of his career, but they cut him loose this offseason. So nothing wrong with taking a swing on a guy that tested that well. Not sure he ever really plays to that speed, but nothing wrong with using a practice squad spot on a
Well,
guy
did
like
I
that.
read right? And they were trying to use him as more of an edge than an inside backer.
That was like the last year, and it was one of those like, he's not picking up our coverage scheme really good, so let's try and just get him on the field one way or another kind of thing. So yeah, one of those. So
I don't know. I think I have notes on him for the draft, but I right now in my stupor of no sleep and health issues, I don't remember what I said about him. But I do know that whatever the linebacking coach for the Packers, he's got that really weird last name.
Campanile.
Uh, yeah, something like that. He was raving about him today. Now, obviously, coaches aren't going to come and say, "Well, I don't know why we signed this guy. He's a piece of shit." But he said that we've moved him back to inside linebacker. He's picked up the defense quicker than we thought he was going to pick up, and shit like that. So, that it. But it makes me wonder the reason of picking him up. You know what I mean? Because Edge is looking good. They drafted Tyron. They've got Wilson. They've got McDuffie. I know Wilson and McDuffie are free agents at the end of the year, but it makes me wonder why. I get the reclamation project and all that, but you'd think you would try that at a different position, like an edge rusher or a defensive lineman. But it just kind of piqued my interest when they brought. I'm not
Yeah.
against the bringing him in. I'm not the biggest fan of bringing McManus in, but it's working out for them right now, and that's kind of how I feel with this. It's no skin off my back to have him on the practice squad. It's not like he's taking somebody else's 53-man roster spot, and if they can make it go and that, it just kind of piqued my interest when it's like former first round linebacker signed to practice squad. It's like, okay, what do they see in here?
So yeah, we will see. Well, maybe we will, maybe we won't, depending on injuries and how Hopper and Cooper come along. And Edge Cooper did win not Rookie of the Week; he won Defensive Player of the Week. So NFC Defensive Player of the Week, which is quite an accomplishment. Deserved. He had at least 3 splash plays on Sunday, and the team is just continuing to put him in positions to succeed, and he is taking full advantage of it. So you like to see him continue to learn overall, but just be continuing to take advantage of his opportunities, and that's all you really can ask a rookie to do. But in come the Lions, like we said. Really, this is the reason why I had such bullish and honestly pessimistic remarks about how Green Bay was executing during the game on Sunday against Jacksonville, because for all the like, oh, they're still winning, oh, you're being so negative, oh, there aren't many teams that are that are executing well. The Lions are probably the one, and this is the team that's winning your division right now, and you've got to find a way to pull out a win in this one. Like, it's not going to be easy. Whether Love plays or doesn't play, you're either going to be with 70-80% Jordan Love or Malik Willis starting at quarterback, and you don't know which of these guys are going to be back to play. That's the thing is like as important as this division game is, the fact that the bye is next week is also going to just affect decision making in terms of who does or doesn't play on Sunday because yes, this game is super important, but then you have the bye and then you play Chicago coming out of the bye, so that's another division game, and you know they don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, and potentially aggravate some of these injuries and have them go longer term. So I'm really curious to see what they'll decide. And but to focus on where Detroit is at, they are the number one points per game offense in the league, sixth in yardage per game overall, fourth in yards per play, and what's it? They're sixth in rush yards per game, 11th in pass yards per game, first in yards per pass. Goff is completing 74% of his passes and has, I believe he's thrown 4 interceptions to 13 touchdowns. So he's played pretty clean football this season. And Ben Johnson has just laid out the red carpet for this offense. And, we saw Green Bay get taken advantage of in the first game last season. And they played better in the game in Detroit, but also, a lot of the aggressive play calling that, the aggressive mindset that Dan Campbell preaches bit him in the ass in that Thanksgiving game. So it'll be interesting to see, which Green Bay team shows up, which Detroit team shows up. But again, this game is going to come down to if Green Bay can stop Detroit's run game, because that's what killed us in the earlier game last season is Detroit just put Green Bay's faces in the mud and Green Bay couldn't do anything about it. So Green Bay's going to have to show the ability to stop the run and force Goff to beat them. And I know he's been, like I said, super efficient and productive, but at the same time, if you can put him into passing situations and Halfley is able to use some of his blitz packages, you can get Goff off kilter and he'll put the ball up for grabs.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the rankings here too, and this is really going to be a tight. On paper, this is like a tight game. Detroit is first with points scored per game, and Green Bay's sixth. Detroit's eighth in points allowed. Green Bay's 11th. So that's some pretty tight numbers there. And then what do we got? We got the big one here is the takeaway difference. Detroit's at +10 and Green Bay's at +7, which Detroit's first and Green Bay's fourth. So that really is going to be something else. Because like you said, when Goff is pressured, he's going to give it up. And now with the bum ankle, it really is pushing. He's going to be a little bit more jumpy. I know he says, "Oh well, I'll be fine," and I think that's what he was saying in his post game interview. Oh yeah, it's good, no problems, or whatever. But it's still okay. My ankle hurts. They're coming for me. I'm not as mobile as I should be. I'm just going to let it loose.
And honestly, the turnover differential, it's only where it is because Green Bay has turned the ball more often. Love has, what is it, 5 more interceptions.
457 interceptions or some shit like that.
So that's the difference because they have the same turnovers. They both have 10 interceptions and 9 fumble recoveries, which, so it's not like Detroit has the higher margin because they're just turning opposing teams over more often. Green Bay is actually matching them in terms of just pure turnovers. The differential is just that Green Bay has not taken care of the ball as well as Detroit has. So, like I said, opportunity for the Green Bay for the Green Bay defense, but you've got to earn the opportunity to have a chance at those. And there it is. Like they rank at mid league in terms of percentage of interception, percentage of passes ending up in an interception. So you gotta force the issue, but in order to be able to do that, you have to stop the runs. So, like I said, I'm really happy that Wyatt was able to come back last week to knock some of the rust off. Kenny's been playing better. You've seen Colby Wooden making decent contributions on the D line. So just up and down that front, they're getting better production out of the interior D line. Edges are setting the edge, or D ends are setting the edge solidly to well, depending on points of the game. And I do think getting Quay back is going to help their defense overall. I know that that's been a hot topic and yada, 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 but
Well, let's go ahead and just rip this apart, because there's a couple things that we need to talk about. One is the Quay thing, and I know you've been pretty on that for a while now, that this defense has looked a little more sloppy without Quay out there. The run game went a little bit worse for wear without Quay out there. Yeah, he has his mistakes, but guess what? The guy that you're lauding right now for being the defensive player of the week, he made just as many mistakes out on the field as he had successes. The big difference is Quay has been in the league a couple more years, and he's got more responsibility. Edge can just go out there and go off with his hair on fire, but they rely on Quay as being that field general out on the field. And he's got to be the guy to make call the play, or not call the plays, but relay the plays, put people in the right positions, keep an eye on everything. So, yeah, has he made mistakes? Sure. But who hasn't made mistakes on this team?
Yep. So,
and then the other one is Lucas. I mean, I'm getting tired of this Lucas hate. Yeah, I know I'm an Iowa fan, and that's all what it's going to come back on bias. But he's only in the first half of his second part of, or in his second year,
in a new defense. So yeah, it's gonna take time. Rebrovich came out and basically said, like, all the guys in that room are relearning the playbook, or not relearning they're learning a new playbook this season. They're trying to pick it up on the fly, and you've seen flashes from everyone. Even that everyone's showing the replay of that one where Lawrence gets that one pass up off the seam under fire. Who's the guy putting pressure on him? It's Lucas, who strung together 3 nice pass rush moves to get a solid. He and Inagbare crush Lawrence on the play. Yeah, you want him to be there a split second sooner, but to me that rep win is just as important. And no, the advanced stats don't care, and the armchair GMs don't care, but I care. You care. People who are watching the nuance on this care. And if he's doing that on a rep, we just need to see it more often, need to see it come quicker. But that's what development is at this point. But so be it. The Quay side of it.
And you just said something that earlier that makes sense too. He's also being asked to do something outside of what he was being asked to do last year. He's having to set the edge more often than he had to last year. So that takes a whole nother process of having to set the edge instead. When do I set the edge? When do I make the pass rush? When do I set the edge? When do I make the pass rush? So that's a whole new process. Not that it's a new process, because he had to do it at Iowa. But, I mean, it's a new process, being that it's a different one than he had last year.
And like I said, he's still getting his snaps. He's still getting his reps. Yes, you want the production higher, but I would only be concerned if, like, fucking Mosby was taking up more snaps. And I know people were saying, like, oh, Brooks is taking some perimeter snaps and blah, 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 but
I figured that was going to happen either way.
Yeah, Brooks is playing well. I don't think it has anything to do with, like, they're so discouraged with Van Ness. Van Ness is still out there a lot of the time. They're not overextending Preston and Rashawn and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Like, it is what it is. I'm not concerned. If you want to be concerned about it, go ahead, complain about it. That's your prerogative. But I think it's going to be fine. It's just going to take more time than people want. Whatever. The big thing, like I
Well,
said, Green Bay's
and
past.
the last thing I've got to say about it before you go on with it is the rumors are Preston's on the trade block. No, I just go with me on this though. The
Yeah,
rumors
yeah,
are
yeah.
that Preston's on the trade block. He wouldn't be on the trade block if they weren't comfortable with the guys that they have right now.
That is
So maybe the
exactly correct.
coaches and the GM are seeing something these armchairs aren't seeing.
And even the Preston side of it, some people are like, oh, he's getting paid so much and blah blah blah. But I'm like, unless you're trading him for another edge who's going to give you similar or better production, you're like I said, that's the whole thing that with this whole season is that this is a season they're expect that they're not the favorite to win it all, but everyone in that building is looking at it as a season to compete this year. And no, they're not the favorite. More of a any give like, and not just a true any given Sunday bet because that makes it sound like you don't really believe in them. But they're a team that any week can match up with and beat the best teams in this league. And you need all your guns, even if they aren't firing their best. And you're not going to trade one of those guys away unless you get a better, younger player. And unless you throw a pick in with Smith, you're not getting that. So I think it's a bunch of hogwash. If I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. But
Well, the
yeah,
big
I think,
name rumor that's going around is Chase Young from the Saints.
oh, God. And that's a waste of money. So, like, yeah.
But it was just more to my point that they wouldn't be, quote unquote, putting this pass rusher on the block if they weren't okay with
Yeah.
what they've got.
If anything, he would be the one on the block. But yeah, so be it. It is what it is. Green Bay's got to be able to muck it up with Detroit because that's what as much as Detroit is known for their trick plays and all that kind of crap. What they want to do is they want to put your face in the mud and see if you can stand up to it. Like I said, Green Bay couldn't handle it in the October game last year, but they did in the Thanksgiving game. So, um, gotta gotta see Green Bay bow their back again and just take Detroit's punch and throw a few more back in their face. So that's gonna be let's see if Halfley's unit can turn this into a bar fight and if they can be the one coming out the door at the end of it. And on offense, I actually okay. So obviously, I prefer Love is healthy and he plays, but this Detroit team, especially after the Aiden Hutchinson injury, not saying that Green Bay should be favored if Willis starts, nowhere close to that, but I do think LaFleur can scheme up a lot of explosive runs against this Detroit team because if you look at the numbers, they're not the best rush defense. They're ranked as fifth in terms of rush yards given up, but that's because they've been up in a lot of their games and they give up the third fewest rushes, but the yards they give up is in the pass game, which it's kind of counterbalanced because it's like, oh, you're giving up a lot of pass yards, but it's because your offense is scoring, so teams abandon the run and yada yada yada. This is a game where no matter what happens, LaFleur's offense motors along at an average to sub-average pace anyway. As explosive as Green Bay is, LaFleur prefers to control the ball, dictate the terms, play the game at his speed, and it's not as the everyone. Some people get confused with the all gas no brakes, thinking like, why isn't this an up tempo, in your face, everyone on the line of scrimmage kind of offense? That's not what he was referring to with all gas no brakes. It's very much like we're going to control the pace. We might hurry up. We're going to go. We're going to huddle. We might rush to the line of scrimmage. It's all to keep you off balance as a defense. We're going to catch you sleepwalking when we can. But I do think this is a week where Green Bay should look to unleash their run game because despite the totals being in Detroit's favor, where they're the like I said third best in terms of opponent rushes per game and fifth best in rush yards per game, they're 22nd in rush yards per carry, which means that again, I they can stop the run at times, but they also get gashed by it. And I do think Green Bay's line is playing well enough in the run game. You add Malik Willis in, giving that extra dimension of you got to account for the quarterback running it. We saw it last week when Jacksonville had to know it because they played against him the last 2 years. And Willis goes out and still has an explosive run. And so I think that is just where the game plan should sit no matter who starts at quarterback. Lean on your pass game or your run game, use play action off of it, and just take care of the ball. That's the big thing. Like I said, Detroit losing Hutchinson is a huge blow for them. So Hutchinson was leading.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He's at 7.5 sacks, and the near closest is Aleem McNeil with 2.5.
Their next D end is Levi Onwuzurike, and he's more of a big, he's a small tackle, light end kind of thing, or big end light tackle kind of guy than he is like a true edge. So, yeah. I do think that Detroit, and that's where Detroit, I expect them to be in play for edge rushers as the season comes along, but we'll see, because I know they lost Marcus Davenport to injury. Pascal has had his moments, but he only has a sack. So, yeah. And this is totally, and some people are like, well, Green Bay's leading sack guy only has, it's Preston with 2.5, but it's different when you've got as many sacks as Green Bay has. So Green Bay has 21 total. Detroit's sitting there at 20. And that's the thing is, Green Bay actually has more sacks, but they have it across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 players. Oh, sorry. Devontae leads the team in sacks now.
Yeah, so, I was going to say, wait a minute. Devontae leads. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah. So, but you've got like a baker's dozen worth of guys, whereas Detroit, it is 10 guys. And what is that? Like 35% of your sacks are gone because Hutchinson, he ain't coming back this season unless they make the Super Bowl, basically, is what they've said. And even that.
Well, and the same thing you can say with interceptions. It's just all of them are between Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. Kirby's got 5 and Branch has got 4. Then you've got Trevor Nowaski who's got 1. So, I know this is easier said than done, but as long as you avoid the safeties, I think you can be pretty good in this game.
Yeah, because Carlton Davis, old frenemy from the Bucks, he doesn't find the ball. He's never found the ball in the air. His whole thing is how much shit can I get away with as a press corner. And Terrion Arnold, who
is kind of the same way.
Yeah, like he's got a bunch of PBUs, but even in college didn't really have interception production because of being that similar kind of player. So meat and potatoes game.
And I know from going through like Reddit, and I know Reddit's not the best place to get information, but going through Reddit and seeing some Twitter things that Terrion Arnold has not been making Lions fans too happy over there. So, it is what it is, but he's not even what they expected when they drafted him.
Yeah, so we'll see. And this is one where Green Bay's O-line, like I said, so as much as Hutchinson isn't there, can't relax. You can't let your guard down because Detroit will blitz. They'll send extra guys. It's their linebackers who have like 4 sacks, they have like 6 sacks between them because they'll come on all kind of funky blitzes and stuff. So, gotta have your pass protection down. Chris Brooks stepping up into that role. He looks like prime Tony Fisher or Brandon Jackson as a pass protector. And you just need to see that continue to hold up. Like I said, whether it's Love, hampered Love, or if it's a hampered Jordan Love, or if it's Malik Willis. And like I said, with Malik Willis, just be more aggressive. If you feel it, see it, go, just hit it. And
I'm going to say for Malik Willis what I said that Iowa needs to start doing. And I know I just made it I brought it back to Iowa. I always bring it back to Iowa.
That's our little
But
spin. That's all.
I know, but everybody knows that Iowa is going to do nothing but run the ball. They're just going to feed Caleb Johnson. Well, when Malik Willis is in there, everybody knows that they're going to hand it off to Josh Jacobs or Chris Brooks or Emmanuel Wilson. You know what's the best thing to do when everybody's prepping for you to hand off to your running back? Play action.
Or even zone read it. Yep, exactly.
So that's exactly what they need to do if and this is all basing it if Malik is starting. We're still we're recording this late Wednesday, early Thursday morning. So
We've got a
we're
long
still
way to go. Yeah.
yeah, we still got a day and a day and a half to figure out if he's even going to practice, and then another 3 days after that before we even know if he's going to play. So we're just all guessing right now.
But yeah, I mean, we're gonna find out. Like I said, this is a and we have the guy who has the quote in the building in Robert Saleh. This is one of the first out to deep water games for the Packers. Detroit took Green Bay out to deep waters in the first matchup last season, and Green Bay couldn't hack it. And we're gonna see if they're ready for that physicality. Like I said, it's gonna be a night and day difference from last year's games to this year's game with no Aiden Hutchinson out there. So we're going to find out how well Green Bay's O-line can handle the rest of Detroit's front seven. But honestly, this is a game where Green Bay's O-line, I have a lot of expectations for them because Hutchinson his not being there just changes the dynamics for how Detroit operates on defense so much. And, you see it every day. Detroit fans are like, go trade for this guy, go trade for that guy. Just this season has so high expectations for the Lions that they're like, okay, we've got to make it happen this season. We'll do whatever. So Green Bay's got to strike while the iron's hot and try to get this win. And like I said, you don't want to do something where, like, if Love is really on he's on thin ice with the injury, you don't want him to just aggravate it to the point where he needs, like, surgery and he's out for the rest of the regular season kind of thing. But also, they're probably going to shoot it up and see what they can do with it. But yeah, even if he practices Thursday and Friday, it'll probably come down to a game time decision because, this is one of those. He might, yeah, and like I said, LaFleur alluded to it where it's like they would prefer he practices. I believe not so much for, like, the mental prep, but it's the actual physical prep because it's like they want to see how his body responds to dropbacks and throwing, how it, all that kind of stuff. And, the one good thing Jordan did say is for as sore as it was on Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, he was not as sore as he expected he would be. He kind of alluded to that in his locker room availability. So, who knows what that means. Like,
just hopefully it wasn't Deshaun Watson treatments and we'll be good.
Oh, no. Well, it's
Too
fine
soon?
if it's fine if it's from just one woman and that special woman in his life. So they're Roger Staubach made that joke all the time. I like sex as much as Joe Namath, but I do it with one woman. So
And what's her name? What is it? It's Ronica?
yeah, Ronica. Can't get this wrong. Can't get the quarterback through.
I'm pretty sure it's Ronica or Ronica.
Right. Yeah, not sure on pronunciation. Miss Stone. We're gonna go with Miss Stone to be PC. Yeah, that's kind of putting a bow on it. Like I said, this is another one where it's kind of hard to do pregame talk because we don't know who's gonna start, and that is gonna dictate how this game plays out. But at its core, Green Bay is going to have to match. On defense, they're going to have to match the physicality that the Detroit O-line wants to play with. And on offense, set the terms of engagement. I know that should be the goal for the offense every week, but especially, like I said, whether Love plays or if it is Willis starting, punch them first in the mouth. See how stout they want to be without Hutchinson. I know he's been out for a couple games now, but this is their they played Tennessee last week, so they weren't going to get that much of a test last week. So, you're a good offense, whether it's Love or Willis starting, punch them in the mouth, see what happens, and test their resolve as well. But Joe, I'm good. You good? Let's go into your over-unders if that's the case.
Yeah, and see, that's even hard this week, not knowing who's starting and all that stuff. So I'm going to assume Josh Jacobs plays. So we'll set him an over under of, let's go 75.5.
I think over, but not by much. I think that Wilson is going to get a bunch of runs, and I do think Brooks is going to get more touches as this goes because they seem really intrigued by his skill sets and want to reward him for his pass protection work.
I'm going to go over because I think they're going to try to rely on the run a lot more, no matter who's starting.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go. This one hasn't worked for us all fucking season, so I guess we'll keep going. Sacks for the defense 2.5.
Under. I'm gonna just start shit talking it like McKinney's interception streaks. So under.
I guess I'm just gonna take the over on it because I've got to believe that, and like I said, Goff being gimpy right now is gonna hamper him some. So I'm hoping that they put it all, and let's hope Rashawn quits practicing his crossover pre-snap, and yeah, I don't know what that was all about. Let's see, let's do one more. Fuck it, we'll throw it back out there. Xavier over under half an interception. So basically, yes or no.
I'm going under for the sake of tradition.
All right, then I'll take the over. I'll tell you what, I'll even do this, and I'll put it out there for the media. If he gets an interception against Goff this game, I will get his jersey.
That's a good one. I like that. All right, and we're going to take a break from Shut the Fuck Up this week. We're going to just do...
Partly because I didn't have time to go through social medias, but partly because of what Thursday is.
Yeah, and honestly, it has been a quiet week. We could go into some rabbit holes here, but it's honestly been a quiet week so far. So nothing too much popping up. Feel like depending on what happens in this game, there may or may not be a lot of them.
We might have a whole show of them.
Yeah, mostly if Green Bay loses and how Green Bay loses. If Green Bay wins, I'm sure there's just going to be a lot of stupid, anti-Green Bay stuff. It's the refs. It wasn't that impressive. Blah blah blah, and all that kind of crap. So we'll see. But okay, you want to do favorite or least favorite candies first?
So let's introduce it a little bit. Since we're not doing the Shut the Fuck Up segment, and with Thursday being Halloween, I figured we could talk about what our favorite and least favorite Halloween candies are. We're not going to do a top 5 or anything because I didn't think about it, but we'll just go, what our favorite and what our least favorite was. Let's go least. So what was your least favorite?
Okay, this is a two-way tie. So, my more traditional one is candy corn. Never been a fan of candy corn, and works out for Marisol because she loves candy corn. So she gets all the fucking candy corn in the relationship. And then the other one, and I don't know if you guys have seen this one in the Midwest. This might be a niche thing, but it was these jelly. They looked like cheeseburger. It was a jelly cheeseburger, like a gummy cheeseburger.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was like the grossest gummy candy in the fucking world. And so I would just that would be one of the ones that were just littering the bottom of the candy bucket at the end of Halloween. And it would always make it to next year's Halloween because whatever candy we didn't eat the year before, my parents were ruthless. They would wait, put in the good candy in the basket, in the their giveaway at the front door, and pour all the shitty candy from last year on the top of the bed, just to make sure it didn't circulate its way back. So those two are my top not favorite candies. How about you?
Yeah, I've never had. I know what you're talking about with the cheeseburger gummies. I never had them, But I mean, the stuff that they make gummy anymore. Hell, I walked into a convenience store the other day and they had gummy sushi. It's like, what the hell are you doing with gummy sushi?
You guys can't even get gas station sushi right, so what are we doing making it a gummy?
But I will have to say my least favorite, and it's not candy corn. Candy corn to me is not a bad candy, and it's not a good candy. It's one of those candies that if it's there, I can eat it. If it's not, I'm not going to go out and hunt for it. Although there was one type that I would go out and hunt for one time, one year, and it was a candy apple flavored candy corn.
Ooh,
and it was really good. But my least favorite, and I always hated, and usually it was older people that would give it, and it's like, okay, well, I understand, because it's probably what they liked when they were a kid. Necco wafers.
Oh, no!
The nasty chalk, like,
it's
no.
so chalky.
And if I had to give a second one, it'd probably be circus peanuts.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You just know it's bad when they use it on Chopped all the time. when it's in the mystery basket like 3 out of every 3rd episode.
But I mean, I understand that, maybe years ago that's what they had, but matter of fact, I was like, okay, well, I remember having circus peanuts when I was a kid and I didn't like them, but you know how when you grow up, you get like different tastes. So I even bought a pack and I was like, nope. And out the window they went.
That's on the company. That's on the work. The cafeteria table. the rec room. The rec room from home pile.
But Necco wafers. I would rather eat a handful of Tums than have anything to do with Necco wafers.
Yeah, yeah. Those are disgusting. Yeah, that is a special kind of hell.
All right, so give me a quick. What's your favorite?
Okay, so. Oh, okay. This one I have a quick top 3. So it's Snickers, and these are all. Hey, sorry, Jalen. Sorry, Kobe, but you better hope I don't see this go in your basket, or it's coming out real fucking fast. Snickers. Starburst, especially if I can see if it's the pink or the red one, or the sweet tarts. And I don't care if it's the roll. As long as the hard candy one, it's got to be the hard candy. So I don't care if it's the regular size one or like the mini ones that they come in. The pouched ones that come in the like mixed bag of candy kind of thing and stuff. So those are the 3 that I'm like, yep, that's getting dad tax right out of your candy.
Okay, so this has always been a weird one for me because, I love Snickers. Obviously, I'm a fat. I love Snickers. I love Reese's. I love all that stuff. But for some reason, nothing hit harder than getting that Three Musketeers bar out of your candy bag. Now, I can go get a Three Musketeers bar every damn day, and it's like, no, it just doesn't have that pop to it. But for some reason, getting it out of that bag, and I don't know what it was. But I'm going to go with a non-traditional one.
Okay.
Because you know how nowadays they tell you, well, you don't eat unwrapped candies and you don't do this or whatever. We had a neighbor when I was growing up, older lady, that made one of the best popcorn balls you ever wanted to have.
Ooh.
And she would make them fresh the night of Halloween. So, yes. I mean, I understand that you have to safety first and all that, but 9 times out of 10, if an old lady has spent the time to make popcorn balls for the kids, that's legit.
And hey, it's either going to taste good or you're going to wake up in like 14 years like Snow White, so...
Well, that's why I said 9 out of 10. I mean, you're going to get that one that, doesn't care anymore, and you're probably going to get like a handful of her medicines in your friggin', popcorn ball. But the other 9 is worth taking the chance on if you can get a fresh popcorn ball. And so, yeah, those are mine. But I had one in my mind that I wanted to do. Uh, controversial take. What is the controversial take you have for a candy from Halloween? Besides the candy corn stuff, because that's controversial as it is. That's always a 50-50 split.
Controversial one. Ooh.
Whether it's a candy that everybody loves that you absolutely hate, or something that everybody
Okay.
always
You know what?
hates.
And okay, this was so. I've always been a Snickers or Skittles over M&M's guy, but especially here, when it's always fucking hot when you go walking around for Halloween, and so like the worst that can happen is the color will come off your Skittles. M&M's, you're waging war that there's a chance that you're gonna have just a bag of candy or a bag of melted chocolate. So, and you know, like M&Ms are great when they're the individual M&Ms, but when they start to melt and congeal into a singular giant M&M, the profile gets all fucked up when it gets all mixed together. So, mine is gonna be that Skittles are always better than M&Ms.
Okay, so here is mine. And this is going to cause a lot of outrage if people hear this. Because I see this on a lot of people's nasty candy list.
We're gonna test a lot of people. We're gonna test to see how many people actually listen to this show.
And I'm going to get called out for this. I know I am. Because like I said, if you ask for people's top 5 nasty candies, I'm going to guarantee you this one is usually on somebody's list. Those candies that always end up in your bag that are in the orange or black wrappers and it's a peanut butter candy, those things are amazing. I love those things.
I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
You never know where they come from, but they're always there in the kid's bag.
Yep.
And they are amazing. I love them. But I like peanut butter. A good peanut butter.
Nothing beats a good peanut butter, so I'm right there with you on that one.
Well, if the kids get some, sit down and try one or two of them. And I tell you, I think people don't give them a chance because they come in just this weird wax paper, wrapping, and they're all like, well, this has no markings on it or anything, so it can't be that good. So they just toss them. But I bet you, if you like peanut butter and you sit down and actually eat them, you'll change your mind on it.
Right on. Well, that's good for us today. We hope you all have a safe...
One more thing. I do want, or two more things real quick. One is everybody have a happy Halloween, safe Halloween. Obviously, you do want to make sure you're not getting anything bad in your kids' candies and everything. So go over it, make sure everything's all right. Make sure you're properly marked, for being out at night. I guess in your case, make sure you have enough cooling material on you that you don't die from heat stroke or whatever. But the other thing is, this episode will be coming out Thursday. Our next episode won't be out till Tuesday, so this will be your early reminder. Go out and vote. Tuesday is the election. There are big things going on this election cycle, so please go out, make your voice heard. I always say, and people get mad at me for saying it, but I believe strongly that if you don't vote, you have no room to bitch about what's going on with politics. So make sure you go vote, whether you vote early. I already voted Monday, so mine's already done. I do agree with somebody I saw on Twitter that said that it should be a law that once you cast your ballot, you should no longer get ads on your TV and radio. But go out and vote.
Always the same 3 fucking ones.
But yeah, go out and vote. I have a preferred candidate that I would rather you vote for, but I try to keep politics out of this as best as I can. So do go out and vote, no matter who you're voting for. That's one of the last things we have in this country that is a traditional right that nobody is really contesting is your right to vote. So go do it. unless you're a felon or an illegal. I guess you can't vote if you're either one. So you guys don't do it, but everybody else who legally can vote, go out and do it.
And on that note, we will call this show to a close. We want to thank you for joining us on this episode. Check out the website, ohanapackers.org, blog posts, streams of the episodes. Support us with the shop. Our drives are still going on for cancer awareness and military support. So please check out our listings on the shop to support the channel that way. Follow the pod on all social medias at Ohana_Packers on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram, and just search Ohana Packers Edition on Facebook. Please follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Give us a like and a subscribe. And all of your comments, we want to hear all of it to produce the content you're looking for. Here we go again. We've said it before this season. We've said it in years past, but the Packers are looking to take command of the NFC North. Love's team has not done so far, and it would be nice to see him. Well, first we need to see if he's going to play, but regardless of which, we want to see if this version of the Packers can go and take the bull by the horns or the lion by the fangs. But we will follow up with our review that will be coming up on Tuesday. And with that, we say go Pack Go, Aloha, and Happy Halloween, everyone.